Look, if you made a bad decision and you got away with it, it's still a bad decision.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my fifth season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. And if you do listen every single day, then please, if you send us a comment via Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now at Locked On MLB Pods, same handle for Instagram, or my private account, which is Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, or right here on the YouTubes. For those of you who watches, put a little hashtag Everyday Sully, so I know who's listened to us every single day. Hey, those are all the places you can follow us. And but by the way, just check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I'm getting a little bit of my wish here. A couple of things happened. First and foremost, we had a legitimate thriller. We had a legitimate nail biter in the National League Championship Series. Why can't I say in the NLCS? A real thriller, nail biter, a terrific game between Arizona and Philadelphia. And while it was at first looked like we got a really good game deep in the heart of Texas, and then the Astros took control, but we now know we have at least one game six. One of these series is going to go to game six. And the big thing is going to happen on, I'm recording this on the 19th. It's probably going to drop on the 20th. So on the Friday the 20th, if Arizona can win, then we know that both of these series will go at least 6 games. So, we're starting to get some energy going, get some enthusiasm going here. But I do want to bring up that philosophical question about a bad decision you got away with is still a bad decision. And you should feel like you got away with something and should learn from it, as opposed to thinking, oh, I was justified. It'll all make sense in a second, but hey, let's first and foremost get to the trivia question. The question was regarding the 2004 ALCS, which as a native New Englander and Red Sox fan, I can't shut up about. Mark Bellhorn hit the back-breaking home run in Game 7 that just put the game away, and it was Alan Embry on the mound when the Red Sox finally won and beat the Yankees. Where did those two players end up for the 2005 postseason? A couple of you got it right, including John Murphy and Big John, and a couple of Big John 08865. A couple of the people did it. He said both Bellhorn and Embry briefly played for the Yankees in 2005. One didn't play in the postseason while the other appeared in one game. Don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. It is. Bellhorn played in the, 1 year later, he played in the division series as a member of the Yankees. Alan Embry also was on the Yankee roster. He actually was warming up in one of the games. He never got in. A bunch of players from the 2004 Red Sox eventually ended up as members of the Yankees. Let's see if I can remember. And technically, one of them would be Ramiro Mendoza, but he was basically a Yankee wearing a Red Sox uniform in 2004. The next year, he was a Yankee. The Red Sox gave up on both Embry and they gave up on Bellhorn. The Yankees picked them up. Doug Mankiewicz became a Yankee. Who else became a Yankee? Kevin Youkilis became a Yankee. Derek Lowe became a Yankee. Johnny Damon. In fact, all the heroes, almost every hero from that Game 7, Damon hit 2 home runs, he became a Yankee. Lowe got the victory, he became a Yankee. Embry closed out the game, he became the Yankee. Bellhorn did the back-breaking home run. I think you're detecting a pattern. Throughout their history, the Yankees have loved to bring in people who have tormented them in the postseason. It's just a fun thing. Anyway, good job getting that trivia question right. Okay, let's get on to the game. And I don't want to detract from the fact that it was a really, really good game played by Philadelphia and Arizona. And I'm going to get to the good parts of the game and being excited and everything. And I was excited. We got a really good playoff game. But Torey Lovullo dodged a bullet. And not just, oh, I almost got shot. I'm talking the way that Keanu Reeves leaned back and the bullet in the Matrix and the bullet went right over his head and sailing over him. That was how he dodged a bullet, because he made, I thought, a horrifically stupid decision, and one that I ran to Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, and I started tweeting because I wanted to timestamp this. This was not a second guess. This was something that I couldn't believe was happening. And when it was happening, I yelled out loud, "Are you effing kidding me?" Okay, let's set it up. Arizona's down 2-0. And the specter of a sweep is hanging over them. By the way, I had said the other day that the Astros avoided a sweep. And someone, I don't remember who it was, someone on YouTube admonished me for not understanding it was a best of 7 and how could it be a sweep after only 3 games. I understand how a best of 7 series works. But when a team dominates the first 2 games and are coming back home the way the Rangers did, the idea of a sweep is in your head. Now, there's not going to be a sweep of any kind. So I understand how best of 7 series work. Thanks for the tip. But this was a critical moment for the Diamondbacks. They looked, game 1 was, and then game 2 was a laugher. It was 10-0. It was a disaster. And one where I believe it would not have been as big a disaster if they let Merrill Kelly work his way out of that jam in the 6th instead of pulling him for Mantiply, and who got bombed, and suddenly a 3-0 game became a 6-0 game, suddenly became a 10-0 game. Okay, so today they don't have Gallen, they don't have Kelly, they have to turn their sights to Brandon Pfaadt, who was a rookie this year. He pitched poorly in his one start in the wild card series against Milwaukee, but they came back. I pitched into the 5th, not great in the series against Los Angeles, but he didn't let up a run. In the regular season, he had a mediocre. I mean, he had some good games, but he also finished with a 5.72 ERA. So I understand the images of Schilling and Big Unit bringing the championship to Arizona wasn't exactly swimming in people's heads when Pfaadt took the mound. But here's the deal. He started pitching like an ace. And against Ranger Suarez, another pitcher who seems to get the yanked pretty quickly, he was pitching wonderfully. Through 5 innings, it was a 0-0 game. And they went into the 6th inning. And they got 2 outs. And at that point, with 2 outs in the 6th inning, Pfaadt had struck out 9 and walked none and allowed only 2 hits. He was throwing a freaking masterpiece. Now, again, I understand you weren't expecting to get much out of him. And you could be thinking in your head, hey, we all, and I've used this phrase before, we all would have asked a genie to have him throwing a shutout into the 6th inning. They had the day off the day before, rested and ready bullpen. They didn't use some of their big pitchers, their big relievers in game 2. Let's not push our luck anymore. Except here's the deal. He was pitching in such a dominant way and shut down the Phillies offense in a way that nobody else had at this point. And he was about to face Schwarber for the 3rd time. But clearly, nobody was clobbering him, and Lovolo took him out. Took him out right then and there. And they brought in, what's his name, Saul Frank, I think that's how you pronounce his name, for the purpose of facing Schwarber and Harper. Now, I wrote then, there's no reason to do this. None. And I'm correct. It was a stupid move. And in one sense, it came back to bite him in the butt because Saul Frank walked both Schwarber. He got the out to get out of the inning, but then walked Harper. And Harper made it all the way around and scored the first run. When they were down 1-0, Saul Frank was the pitcher of record. It was his batter that was let up and scored on the wild pitch. Or was it a pass ball? I don't remember. All I know is the ball was pitched, it went to the backstop, and in comes Harper. And Phillies up 1-0. And suddenly the thought of a sweep is in your head. Yes, I know it would only be the third win. There are so many reasons this was monumentally stupid. And I'm realizing I need a whole segment to break this down. And this isn't about second guessing. Look at the timestamps on the tweets that I wrote. And I'm going to explain the idiocy of this in just a moment. Hey, let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Jase Medical. Now, look at, we've all been in situations where maybe we're cut off from the medication that we need, or we need to find a way to get a hold of some critical medicine and critical pills that we need. And in the uncertainty in the world, you could find yourselves in unfortunate situation. Tell you what, you can use the Jase case. It's a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can customize your case and add additional life-saving medication based on your unique needs. Jase now offers customizability. That's easy for you to say. For your Jase case with dozens of add-on medications, choose the medications that fit you and your family's unique needs, and continually working to expand their medications offering. In their recent efforts, they added ivermectin as an option in the Jase case for those of you with worms. You can also buy a gift card for families or your loved ones so they can get a Jase case of your own. Go to jasemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. Now look at, I want to nip one thing in the bud. I am not an anti-analytics guy. I'm not. I understand the reason for them. I understand how they help. And I understand it means data. We're creating data that will help us win ball games. It's predictive. I understand that. And I understand that a lot of times if you go along with the analytics say, chances are it's going to put you in a better position to win if you're using it correctly. Like any data. Judging a player by their home runs and RBIs are analytics. It's just different forms of data you want to have. I get that. But there comes a point where relying on certain data in situations gets in the way, and sometimes gets in the way of a bigger picture. Let me explain. Pfaadt is pitching wonderfully. He is throwing a shutout into the 6th. The Phillies can't hit him. There's 2 outs and nobody on. And I thought of something, and Ron Darling said it like 5 seconds after I thought it, which was worst case scenario. The absolute worst case scenario of Pfaadt facing Kyle Schwarber for a third time was Schwarber hits a deep fly ball and it hits the lights at the stadium in Phoenix and they all explode like the end of The Natural. That's the worst thing that could happen. And in that case, it's a 1-0 ball game. If your worst case scenario is we're down 1-0 in the 6th, and the best case scenario is you got 6 shutout innings, and maybe you have him go out to face the first batter in the 7th, I don't know. But that seems like a pretty small worst case scenario. There are some other factors that have to be added into this too. And it felt like the Diamondbacks were trying to prevent a loss instead of trying to get a win. It's a little CYA. Well, the data told us you shouldn't face him a third time. Yes, but the game I'm watching showed the guy was dominating and shutting down an offense that was scoring at will just a couple of days ago. And there are two other factors, okay? If if Pfaadt was pitching and had a shutout into the sixth inning, but was laboring, if like everyone was taken to a 3-2 count and he was up to like 95, 100 pitches, okay, I'll listen. If he was throwing a shutout, but every inning he needed a diving catch or a double play to get him out, okay, fine, I'll listen. But he wasn't. As I said, he let up the 2 hits. He didn't let up a walk. He struck out 9, and he was at 70 pitches. Not 100 pitches, not 110 pitches, 70. 70 pitches. You couldn't get it to 75? You couldn't get it to 85? Hell, what I thought 100 was the magical number you weren't allowed to get to. Didn't that mean he had 30 more pitches left in him? Couldn't he potentially have gotten you through at least part of the 7th inning? So he wasn't laboring. He was pitching wonderfully. And there's another factor to include here. Besides the fact he's 70 pitches, and of course they brought in, what's his name, Saalfrank to come in. And it drives me crazy when I would see this throughout the year when sometimes they would have someone come in. Well, we can't let him go past two times around the order, and then they bring in that key reliever in the 7th or 8th inning, or 6th or 7th inning. And while I do not believe in the tyranny of the save and using your best relievers only in the 9th, you should bring in the relievers when the pitcher isn't pitching well. And maybe, and I know this goes against all logic, but maybe if you have him pitch through that and they even face Schwarber again, and God forbid, maybe fall down 1-0, you have Saalfrank as a weapon to use later. How many times have you seen extra inning games where they have the schmucks who are usually not even used in high leverage situations pitching with a winning run on base because they already burned through all their best relievers in the 5th and 6th inning? But there's another reason why this was a stupid decision. Do you know who's starting the game 4? Mantiply. Whomever, don't get used to him much because he's an opener. That's right. Game 4 is a bullpen game. Mantiply is going to come in and pitch, the first 6 batters, and then they're going to go into the pen. So you already know game 4 is going to be all hands on deck using, mix and match the relievers the best you can. So knowing that, wouldn't you want your pitcher in game 3 to go as deep as possible to get you into the 7th inning so you don't have to use all those pitchers? And what if Marte didn't get that hit in the bottom of the 9th? They would have gone into extra innings, and they used 5 pitchers. 5 pitchers, and over the 9 innings, the combined line score was 3 hits, 1 walk, or 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts. So clearly nobody was getting bombed. And those two of the 3 walks were by the guy they brought in to relieve Pfaadt. So it was a terrible decision by Livolo. He just got away with it. 2 straight games, he pulled the pitcher too soon. Now look I don't want the pitcher out there pitching until his arm is dangling by a single tendon, but somewhere there exists a gray area between Kevin Cash and Grady Little. Somewhere there exists I'm going to leave him out there till he can't pitch no more. And, well, I know you're throwing a masterpiece, but this data sheet says you have to go. I'm not anti-analytics, but I'm also pro understanding the context. This is a game where An extra out here, there, or there could have made a huge difference. They got away with it. Barely. Because you got away with it, didn't suddenly make it right. The bad decision is still a bad decision. Now, Ketel Marte has got a hit in every single game he's played in. He has been unbelievable. And he was unbelievable. He was terrific in the 10-0 blowout. Marte has shown up. Marte is a star. Marte is a terrific ball player who is showing up big time when they need it. So, of course, he got the walk-off hit. It was his third hit of the game. And he is doing everything in his power to be the spark plug of this team. And he is so fun to watch. And he's currently batting. He has an OPS right now in the postseason of 1.046, which, in case you're wondering, is good. Now, they need Carroll to wake up. And Carroll is doing, they need Carroll and Walker to start producing big time. And they have a bullpen game. But guess what? The Philadelphia is not going to be throwing Nola. They're not going to be throwing Wheeler tomorrow. They're going to be throwing Sanchez, who hasn't pitched in a couple of weeks. So there is a chance, if they handle the bullpen correctly for game 4, that this could be an anybody game. Now, I would feel a little better for the Diamondbacks if they didn't burn through so many relievers that they're now going to be needed to throw in back-to-back games. Torey Lovullo, he's a good manager. Okay? But this is just a little bit of managing to not lose and to be able to face the press and say, well, because if he faced Schwarber a third time and Schwarber pulled the Roy Hobbs, say, oh, I don't know. Well, he doesn't have to answer to that because he went by what the percentages say. But you know what? Sometimes you put that aside. What if there are so many scenarios where if Schwarber made an out, 6 innings, and then, do you know what? If they gave him the 6 innings and he made the decision, I could at least say, all right, they got the 6 innings out of him. It would make sense to me. I probably would have had him go out into the 7th and face the next batter. Basically send him out to the 7th and say, pitch until you let up a base runner. And if he gets through the 7th, 8th, and 9th, then guess what? We got a complete game. But we do have ourselves a series. And tomorrow evening, we're going to see if the Battle of the Bullpens is going to produce a series that takes us back to Philadelphia. Major League Baseball playoffs are here, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to get 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. It's never been more exciting than right now when you got studs like Ketel Marte, Jose Abreu, and the fantastic Zach Wheeler and Bryce Harper showing up big time. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you can win big. And you can get your entries made in under a minute. So use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Sleeper, it is time to win big. Let's quickly talk a little bit about the second game, which looked like it may have been a thriller because the Astros jumped out to an early lead, but then the Rangers stormed back, and Corey Seager. Why can't the Yankees sign players like Corey Seager? Corey Seager hit a game-tying home run. It's like, oh man, this is gonna be good. But then Yordan Alvarez nearly got a grand slam, and the next batter was Jose Abreu, who got a 3-run homer. And suddenly an airtight game turned into a big blowout. And look, there's not a lot to break down what happened. The Astros, showed up. Hunter Brown came out of the bullpen, gave them the innings they needed. He was terrific. I don't understand why he didn't get the victory. I don't understand how wins work for relievers. Stanek pitched a third of an inning. Brown pitched 3 innings, so give the win to Stanek. I don't understand how these things work, especially on situations like this where the starting pitcher didn't go long enough. So I thought it was the scorer's discretion of who gets the victory. Clearly, it was Hunter Brown, so naturally went to Stanek. I don't care because it means it's just silly to worry about that. But we saw a little bit of what I said before. The Rangers are Jekyll and Hyde, and they can go back and forth. They can look fantastic and they can look horrible. They can look like world beaters and they can look like they shouldn't even be on the field. Remember, this is the exact same team that had an 8-game winning streak and an 8-game losing streak in the same month of August. It's very hard to figure this out. And for the series against Tampa, the series against Baltimore, in the first 2 games in Houston, they were having one of the most dominant postseason I've ever seen in my life. They couldn't lose. Not only could they not lose, they were never trailing save for 1 inning. And even that inning where they came in trailing, they went on a rally to take the lead. But they can get just as cold. And you had a 10-3 loss today. You had an 8-5 loss the other day. So clearly the pitching isn't, nailing things down. And this is going to be, for those of you who hate the Astros, look out. The Astros have home field advantage again and are throwing Justin Verlander. Now, the Rangers are showing up with Montgomery. Tomorrow's game, which starts at 2 o'clock here in Los Angeles County, it starts at 5 o'clock on the East Coast and starts sometime between 5 and 2 in Texas. It's not up to me to have where your time zones are. This is a critical game. And I think it's more critical for the Rangers because if the Rangers lose this game, they've spiraled out. The Astros will split 2 games at home. But if the Rangers win and they hand the ball to Eovaldi in Game 6, or I wonder, do you send it to someone else other than Eovaldi, give him an extra day? I don't know, and neither do you. But the fact of the matter is, you get the sense of who wins tomorrow afternoon is going to win the American League pennant. But the nice thing is, the American League pennant won't be won tomorrow because we know there's going to be a Game 6. And that Game 6 is indeed on Sunday. So we know we're going to have at least 1 game this weekend. And we're going to have 2 games on Friday and at least 1 game on Sunday, which means in so many ways, I want the Diamondbacks to win tomorrow and the Rangers and the Astros to split the next 2 games. Why? Because that would mean on Monday, you would have both the NLCS and the ALCS, and we have at least 1 more day with more than 1 game being played. But we have 2 games being played tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this, and that's pretty cool. Now, before we get going, I want to ask today's trivia question. It's about the Philadelphia Phillies and clinching. For those of you who know me, and I know I do, you'll know that I have a little bit of a fascination with the pitchers who are on the mound when a postseason series is clinched. In fact, it was a Philadelphia Philly pitcher, Tug McGraw, that I used to imitate when the Phillies won the 1980 World Series, the way he raised his hand when they clinched. In the entire history of the Philadelphia Phillies, only 1 pitcher has clinched a postseason series for the Philadelphia Phillies with a complete game. Who is the only Phillies pitcher to throw a series-clinching complete game victory? That's your trivia question. I had to look it up, and I said, wow, that's true. Who was it? Who's the only pitcher? There's no real bonus point. If you tell me what series it was, too, there you go. A lot of great pitchers in Philadelphia Phillies history, but only 1 stood on the mound to clinch a postseason series. So go to Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram, and you can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and please, please, please subscribe to us on YouTube and tell your friends if you like this show. And we're going to be doing baseball podcasts all throughout the off season. Do you know why? I like talking baseball. And I'm going to talk baseball a little bit later, but that's the end of the show here, talking about a decision that a team got away with, but don't think you're always going to get away with it. And the Rangers wondering, are you Jekyll? Are you Hyde? and which one is the bad one in this particular analogy. This has been Locked On MLB for the 20th day. It's late October already. 20th day of October 2023. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.